Jamie Redknapp's one for me. I don't mind Jamie Redknapp. I think he's a nice guy, but everyone's a little magician. Like every little player that has a little bit of creativity is a magician in Jamie Redknapp. So.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the world famous podcast, Beat the Press. Your two hosts, myself, Ty. We've obviously got Kristian with us as well today. Please do not adjust your sets. You are seeing it right. We're both wearing matching tops today.
Hey.
Done by magic. Obviously, this is a podcast around football. If that's your sort of thing, you like what we say. If not, give us a like, share, subscribe. All that good stuff down at the bottom. Today's podcast, we're going to talk about a subject that's been pissing both of us off, pundits, and in particular shit pundits, and how their opinion seems to gather. It's got more power than it has ever had before, and I don't know if it's because we're in lockdown and everyone spends all their life on Twitter or not. But yeah, so that's the subject we're going to talk about today. We've got a few things we want to discuss. So I'll pass over to you, Chris, to kick us off.
Yeah, so I've been hearing a lot of I want to call it shit. Well, I would say that. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Thiago, we're both Liverpool fans, and I think that's the one that is tipping me over the edge at the moment. I think I heard Paul Merson saying that Thiago can't do it in the Premier League, and we talked about it many a times, and we just it's just lazy comments. And like you say, it's just social media sound bites. It's just something that's just going to grab attention. Like we mentioned it before, that Adrian Durham, he's probably the king of it. I would say he founded the troll commentator style, where he just says something utterly ridiculous, something controversial, probably something that doesn't even believe, just so they can get a reaction, obviously comments and stuff like that, which is pretty much what the whole culture is about. Like if you think about us on YouTube, if you think about just about anything, everything, your rankings are all based around interaction. So again, comment in the boxes. But yeah, and so what Paul Merson was saying is that Thiago can't handle the Premier League. Not like he hasn't took into consideration the fact of all the injuries. He's coming to a new country. I understand he's a world-class player. World-class players do come in, they do settle, but there are players out there that have the second season. He's the type of person that doesn't take that into consideration. He just throws away that comment and just no accountability whatsoever. And that for me is the thing that tipped me over the edge. And I was like, right, Ty, let's do this podcast because I've had enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's Paul Merson. I won't even class him as a pundit. I think we've spoke about this before, where we say should they even be called pundits? Are they pundits or are they entertainers? Paul Merson's opinions, like, what gives him the right to give an opinion apart from the fact he's played the game? Now, this is really interesting. People always play the game. He's been a professional for X amount of years. He played for Arsenal in England. That doesn't mean you actually know the game. Now, there's a difference about knowing the game and actually playing the game. The biggest difference, I'd say, is as a player, you could have great natural ability and you've just played. You've not had to do any hard work. As a pundit, you're given the job as a pundit because you were a player and you've had that insight. Now you can't. Now, does that mean you're an excellent analyst? Because if you were, you'd go be an analyst at a club or the other flip side of it as well is you've got pundits who they're either failed managers or players that aren't good enough to be managers. We can throw the net out wider. Gary Neville, brilliant pundit, just not good enough as a manager. Carragher himself said and Carragher and Neville are the two best pundits in my eyes anyway. They're brilliant. They obviously got the proper pundit show, what I call Monday Night Football. Carragher himself said he'd never go into management because, the risks of getting sacked are too high. He's got the comfort of being a pundit at Sky Sports, the job security, all that. He enjoys it, and that obviously works well for him, and he's working with ex-players as well. Part of it, in pundit as well, I heard this, I can't remember which one of the pundits said it. Someone said it's got that changing room feel to it, where you're still in that environment of being around your mates, around your club. It's got that club feel, and that's obviously great. going back to Merson, and I'd throw a few others in the same boat as him, and I'm talking about your Robbie Savages, your Chris Suttons, who just sort of come out with outlandish statements. Roy Keane's another phenomenal player. Micah Richards again, another one who I like. Richards and Keane seem to have got the Super Sunday slot, which is just fine. But going back to that, are the pundits entertainers? Now they might well be entertainers because they've obviously got great camaraderie between them. Richards has got the laugh, which everyone sort of seems to know, and saying he's great. He's not a great pundit because he just seems to, whenever something happens, like, oh, he's absolutely brilliant, he's absolutely sensational. Everything just seems to be like right to the top. Owen Hargreaves was another one who I've not heard him for a while. Thank fuck for that. But he kept on saying, oh, he's the best left back in the world. He'd just make a comment that's like, how have you just said that? You can't just come up with that comment because we've watched him for like a minute and he's had a great through ball or something, you know. So just the whole punditry and how we're looking at it now as football fans, and if that's what TV companies actually want from the pundits. You know, the Richards and Keane, they seem to get so much traction online, on Twitter. You know, they always seem to be trending. And it's never like, you know, you've actually not given us any analysis, but they're trending, and it gives, you know, your Sky Sports and BT getting all the hits and clicks and stuff, which works for them if that's what they want.
Yeah, it's banter culture. You know, that's basically what it is. It's how can we get a little snippet and promote our show. We're controversial, get people tuning in. Nobody wants to talk when someone's right about something, who can back something up with facts upon facts. People just want to talk about something that's controversial. And it's interesting that you say about I think you said Owen Hargreaves. Jamie Redknapp's one for me. I don't mind Jamie Redknapp. I think he's a nice guy, but everyone's a little magician. Like every little player that has a little bit of creativity is a magician in Jamie Redknapp. But moving on from me personally, from Merson is Roy Keane. Roy Keane is, I don't mind Roy, because what he does do is he puts the fear of God up certain pundits and co-commentators, and I like that little bit of uncomfortableness. Especially, you know, sometimes when he calls out Carrigan, he gives him a bit of a look. But like you say, phenomenal player, absolute phenomenal. But I don't want to hear that Liverpool. Again, it feels like I'm going back to Liverpool about champions. There's no substance behind what he's saying. You know, a few months ago, obviously he mentioned how we were flying, how well we were doing. How that's a sign of great champions. And then a couple of months later, when we've had the hardships that we have had, violin and all that, he makes no reference to that fact back then. And what I want to hear from Roy Keane is someone with his experience. When times are tough, what happens? Does someone pull someone to the side? Do you have a team meeting? You know, all that experience that he has, everything that he can fall back and playing under arguably the best manager in the world who will have went through those times, very few and far between. But you know, what happened in those moments? You know, give us a bit of your expertise as opposed to just throwing everyone under the bus. I think he just goes there and he's just pissed off and he's just like, fucking, I'm just going to say what I want. I'm going to get paid anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think the frustration is when I don't want to fucking blow smoke or ass, but I'd say we're fairly educated football students, fans, whatever we want to call it. You know, we watch the game, we understand it. We want more than a pundit just saying, "Oh, that's absolutely brilliant." If someone scored a worldie, I can see that. I don't need you to tell me. If someone's fucked up a back pass, I don't need you to say, "Oh, that's a monumental fuck up." I know that. I can see that. I want a bit more from you. I want you to explain to me what's happened and why. What would have been the better option for him to get the ball, and how support from around that error would have stopped that error happening. Do you know what I mean? The Alisson couple ones, obviously the couple of mistakes, massive mistakes. You know, bang bang, there you go. And then this is the single biggest, and I mentioned it in that game, and it's the single biggest thing that pisses me off in pundits. And now these are ex-players, so it goes back to the Alisson, and then the pundits will say, this is when the team's trying to play out from the back, and it'll go wrong, which it can happen. Why didn't they go long? And I'm like, they've actually been playing out of the playing. That's the way the team plays. They play out from the back every single game, all throughout this game. But because they messed up on that one, you're going to go back. So why didn't you do the same analysis for every other pass they've made, which was successful? It just pushes on their point. Now that same thinking gets spouted on social media, and it gets taken on the local parks pitch, and it's that stupid, cliches of not understanding the game. A team will have a philosophy of playing. They will play out from the back. They'll have different patterns of play. When it goes, keeper gets it, the moving, shifting the pressure to one side to get out the other side and play there. And sometimes it might not happen. So you're trying to create that moment, just for example, Liverpool might have been pushing Man City's press once to create to get out to Robertson. Alisson fucked it up. It happens. It's fine. You don't suddenly say you've got to go long. The whole team is set up for the ball to be switched over to one side, not for you to smash it, because Micah Richards and Roy Keane just say, "Oh, you've got to get smashed," or Robbie Savage. It's just absolute. Now, if it was someone who's just played grassroots football all their life and just played Sundays, I kind of get it. But these guys have played professional football and have had coaching every single day, and they'll have had teams that have played under a philosophy, a style of play, and they would have been told how to play. This is how to play throughout the week. On Monday, game on Saturday. This is what we're going to do. This is how we want you to play. They're not suddenly going to say, "Oh, go long," because there's a chance you might lose it. There's always a chance a mistake can happen. That is just the weakest, laziest punditry going. And the biggest thing out of all it, there's no accountability to it. There's nothing.
That's exactly right.
You can say whatever you want, and there's nothing that will come back, and no one will ever say anything to you. It's just shit. And then, that opinion gets so much power, and clickbait is fuck on social media, and it's just like gets so much power. It's just so frustrating. You wouldn't better. Neville and McCallagher on Monday Night Football, they'll analyse stuff. They'll get in early and they'll do the analysis. Whereas you just feel the guys that are doing one game on or the whole Super Sunday is like turning up. Oh, we'll just watch the game and we'll just talk about it as it goes along. Do you know what I mean? And everything is what's happened in that game. They never think long term. So Thiago, just going back to that example you said about Merson saying Thiago can't see. I remember the exact same thing happening about David Silva when he first came at the league. He ended up being one of the best players to ever grace the league. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? These sort of players, he's not strong enough, he can't deal with the press. Thiago played for the best team in Europe last season, Bayern Munich, who press as well as Liverpool. They're the two best pressing teams in world football. If you go from one pressing team to Liverpool, I think you'll be all right. I think you've just got to think bigger picture, moving country, moving everything in place. You know what I mean? It's a big thing. Yeah. You talk about Fabinho as being the best holding midfielder in the world. It took him 6-8 months before he started playing. Do you know what I mean? There's that small process of getting bodies across. Sorry, I just took over the airwaves there.
No, that's fine. No, what you were saying there, accountability is bang on, and especially changing the philosophy. Now, if you think of the perfect example for me right now is John Stones, and Pep Guardiola and Man City, the way that they're going at the minute. At the beginning of the season, everybody was telling you how Pep was basically done. They weren't winning. Liverpool, we were maybe about 5-6 points clear, maybe with a game in hand, before we went on a drastic run. And everybody was saying that, he's a fraud and, his time's done and all that. And now they've just went and absolutely cruised the league. And not only have they done that, they've done that with the player that Guardiola took out of the firing line, so to speak, and maybe he's worked on it, John Stones' defending ability. A few months ago, pundits will be saying John Stones is an absolute liability, and right now they're saying that he's probably the first pick as England centre-back. So, again, it's just that accountability and the laziness in the comments, and that's why, we always go back to The Athletic, and it's not a plug. It's a great, what would you call it? Like an app. Yeah, where they basically
just journalists. There's no clickbaitiness in there.
Yeah,
there's proper analysis done there. You've got real good journalists, and a couple of times I think they've pulled up Roy Keane, Richards, and the stuff that they just say that they jump from point to point, and there's no meaning to it. But the thing is that the pundits are playing to society and what people want. People want clickbaity stuff. People want stuff that they can stick back in their mates' WhatsApp groups and have a bit of banter between them. It doesn't make a difference if it's true or not, because generally it's not. It's something that anyone on the street can come, and it's not. I never turn on to a game of football to watch the pundits unless it's Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Now that just says it, you know what I mean. The rest of them are just not good enough. They're just not good enough. Now, if for those of you who watch Champions League Goals show on BT, and you got like who I think are a brilliant set of pundits, who I would call pundits and experts and know the game. There's Honningstein, there's James Oldcastle, there's Julian Lorenz, I think, James Richardson. And they are so knowledgeable, and I'm watching, and I know the game, and I'm listening. I'm taking, like, yeah, I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying, because they talk about the games and they actually do the analysis. They're experts in their field. Now you get pundits commentating on an Italian game, and they'll be so lazy, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, they'll take the lead and they'll go back to the typical Italian shell of defending deep." And I was like, you're talking about Catenaccio about 40 years ago. Have you not watched Atalanta play? Do you not watch? Do you know what I mean? The game's completely different. It's going back to that lazy punditry of not doing your own research, And then they say, the Guardiola one is a brilliant point, and it just highlights how people want instant reaction, and yet there's no accountability. So, like you said, early in September, Man City were miles off. Man City are horrible. They finished. Guardiola, can he do it? Now they're the best team ever. It's literally 3 months away. It's same what Roy Keane said at the start of November about Liverpool, saying, they're the superb champions, showing great heart to come back from all this adversity. Now in January, end of January, it's like, oh yeah, worst excuses all I hear. It's like you've just completely jumped. Go on.
Yeah, he also said, I never once heard any of the players, the manager, or anyone saying how we need to do it again next season, and on to the next one. Once you win something, you need to be planning for the next one. In Klopp's first interview, I think after they directly won the title, this team will not rest. We'll be going and looking to go again next year. The fact that it didn't happen is neither here nor there. But
it's the intent and the intention, and I know I feel like we're pulling out Roy Keane, but I think he seems to everyone just like, I love him as a pundit, and he just pisses me off. I'm like, but then that's what we're up against. You know what I mean? It's very much how fact doesn't really matter. It's just how loud you shout, and he shouts quite loud, so people tend to listen up.
You'd be surprised as well, a lot of the Man United fans, because he digs Man United out quite a bit, but he's been giving him a bit of a G up recently. I don't know why this changed. United are not that far ahead of where they were or where they needed to be. But even United fans are a bit sick of him. But it is like we keep on going back to it: laziness. But it is just in general about society. We have with the internet and podcasts and YouTube and everything else. We have so many different options available to us to get our content. Like obviously, people are here watching Beating the Press for their quality content. We're competing with, not at the level, but we're competing with other podcasts, other shows. So I think that they feel like they have to evolve to compete with like people nowadays. Like it's not once what it once was, where content is everything. So like we're all victim of it basically. I've done it myself, where you'll get something which is quite catchy from your mates, like on a WhatsApp text, and you'll just forward it on. You won't even see the fact to see if they're right or anything like that. Van Dijk hasn't been dribbled past in 4 years. You'll just be like, yeah, that sounds good. Pass it on to all my Man United mates, see what they say. So, whilst we dig people out, maybe we've got to be a little bit understanding of the likes of Roy Keane and stuff like that when they have so little time. If you think about the advertising schedule that they have to stick to, in halftime segment, for example, they have 15 minutes where they've basically, I think they've got to fit in around about 2 or 3, ad breaks. So maybe the lazy comments come from that if I'm playing devil's advocate, but before and after the game, you want a bit more from them. I mean, even like Graham Souness, he'll give you a little bit. He'll speak from experience. He'll give you a little bit more. But again, Michael Richards, he'll just laugh, and Roy Keane will scowl.
Exactly. Just one other thing that I was meaning to sort of bring up we talked about the Champions League goals show and why I think they're brilliant. They actually give detail and explanation. and it's players that we're actually pulling up here. So there's definitely a free ride because they were players, and I think that and that's not just in punditry as well. I think that could be jobs as coaches, as managers in the game, and it's just because of the network that you've created. You might not necessarily be the best in the job. You're definitely not best people for the job, especially when it comes to punditry. But it's because who they know, and because Roy Keane is available as a pundit, or we're getting him in. Do you know what I mean? It's like the player. If, for example, I don't know, Zidane became available, but he'd be a phenomenal, but he's a really shit pundit. Ronaldo, the same. Can you imagine him? Or I want to be a pundit.
Yeah.
Every news TV company in the world would want him in, but even if it's horrible, they're not going to get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? Because all they'll do is at the bottom will be like 5 Ballon d'Ors, 10 Champions Leagues, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that'll be a pull and be like, well, that's why he can have an opinion. And it's like, it's that bit that gets to me. It's like everyone can have an opinion, but everyone's opinion seems to be getting too much air now. It's only those opinions that actually were validated and had some hard substance behind them they could evidence why they've come up with that conclusion. And we don't seem to be getting that at the moment. And it's just frustrating. You just want analysis, you want explanation of why you've come to that opinion, not just using loud big words, and expecting that to be your answer.
Yeah, well, we've got a podcast coming up over the next couple of weeks, which refers to the fact that great players doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to translate into a great manager. As we've highlighted with the likes of Roy Keane and co. But I'm just thinking back over the Monday Night Footballs, the ones which you pay specific attention to. If you think of the likes of the Rafa Benitez one, the Jose Mourinho one. I even remember Sam Allardyce being on one. We may, obviously there's a big gulf in my opinion between Rafa Benitez and Sam Allardyce, but Sam Allardyce brought something which not many pundits can bring. He brings a level of expertise when it's like to fitness and stuff like that. So people may laugh at Sam Allardyce or like his management style, but there are levels to these things when offering expertise rather than, as we keep on saying, lazy sound bites.
Yeah, I remember the Rafa one because I was, like you talk about, would you don't log into, you don't tune in to watch a pundit, but Monday Night Football when Rafa was on, I was like, I'm tuning into that. Yeah. And there's one bit that sticks in my mind of that, and he was explaining to Carragher, he's like, said to him, how are you going to defend? And he was like, get low, and he was talking about how to bend your knees. The angle that you need to bend your knees so you can move quickly. Try moving there quicker now. And his, Rafa's like, big and he's going to be a footballer. But that level of detail, and going in and explaining why you needed to that. And they were pulling up someone, like the ball had been shifted and why the distance between the fullback and the centre half was right, and why the fullback should have changed his body shape and all that. And then he said his knees needs to be bent. And I was like, that's the level of detail. Yeah. You get pundits saying, oh yeah, the distances aren't right. But Rafa just took it to another level, and you're thinking that's why he's won the Champions League. That's why he has done and been one of the best managers in the game for the last 20 years. It's because of that level of detail and understanding. And you're just taken aback by that. Even Mourinho, even though he was I thought he was a bit. There's different types of pundits. The ones that are on the Super Sunday, I think, the halftime ones, Mourinho does it really. He's like, he'll say what everyone sees. The Monday Night Football ones, when there's actually an hour aside and they actually go in and analyse and they talk, that's different, and that's more. There's more research done. There's more quality content in them. So if you want to listen to your entertainers the rest of the week, but if you want to listen to actual pundits, I'd be like Monday Night Football for me.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Just one other point. Sorry, before you jump in, it's about Sky Sports, and I think the boys' club we talked about before we came on air, and it was they obviously got rid of a load of ex-pundits, and there was a bit of a kick-off on social media to say, can't get rid of them, can't believe they got rid of them. They had to get rid of them because they weren't good enough. Paul Merson, how we survived, I've got no idea. Phil Thompson was one of the ones that went as well. There was, I think, Charlie Nicholas, has he gone as well? There was I don't know if you saw that. It was basically the Gillette Soccer Saturday special team that went most anyway. And it was like, where you at it? Because it literally was a boys' club whose just opinions were just outdated and lazy, and it was mates just getting together on a Saturday and talking about the game. Do you know, it was Cammy and Jeff and having a laugh together, and it's like, but you know, we're here criticising, but it's like it's that balance in it. That's what the TV execs want, and that's what the punters want to see and hear. Maybe that's what's. But it's just, you know, as football fans, I think I'm disappointed if this is where we expect the game to be going, because, you know, we're better than that. But we don't need to be tuning into these so-called pundits to get those views.
Yeah. Like, it'll only get you so far. You can only have so many Chris Kamaras, you know, on one show. You know, you warm to Chris Kamara because he is a bit daft, and, you know, you can just, you know. That's
your uncle you're talking about.
Throwaway comments. He's a bit daft. I ignore that. Totally ignore that. Like, you know, you can throw away a few daft comments, but you can't have 4, 5 Chris Kamaras. You've got to have some kind of content in there. I'm not saying that he doesn't. You know, he's been around the block. He knows his stuff. But, you know, he knows sometimes when you're playing up to the camera, he knows what he's doing. You know, that's his personality. But, you know, like, if you think of the likes of BT, they've started to move it into more of a panel. Where they're all sat around on a sofa. You know, you'll have Michael Owen, you'll have Robbie Savage, you know, bang average, by the way. But it's just moving on to a more sexy style. And I think that's where it is. You know, they care more about how it looks, futuristic and all that, rather than the actual content itself. It's just all about now just getting the best pundits in, and just getting rid of the crap, because I cannot listen to Michael Owen, Steve McManaman, Robbie Savage anymore.
No, I know. I mean, I just want to sort of. It's really interesting you mentioned there about the pundits and how it's evolved. I mean, there's obviously a lot of there's a few female pundits on there as well now, and I think they obviously get hard done by some of the comments, and I think the stuff they talk about is really good and knowledgeable. I'm listening. I'm like, yep, agree. Everything you're saying is spot on. Yeah. As soon as they say one thing wrong, they'll get absolutely nailed on social media, and I'm like thinking, that's fucking disgusting. Roy Keane, Mika Richards, Robbie Savage, Chris Sutton, Owen Hargreaves, they come out with the most random bullshit comments every single time they're on, yet nothing happens to them. And now that's just a reflection of society. We don't like to admit it. Football's just a reflection of society. You've got dickheads everywhere, and they get to say whatever they want without any comeuppance. And that, I mean, there's obviously a wider issue here at the moment with, you know, racism and players getting racially abused on social media sites, and, you know, social media sites need to do more. But yeah, I'm just thinking, you know, women, there's some really brilliant pundits, and I just think they do get given a really tough ride.
Absolutely, that's a great point. I'll take Alex Scott over Michael Richards, for example, any day of the week. She's pretty decent. No.
Right, are you going to follow
she's a very intelligent person. We'll leave it at that. Call me. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's got experience of, you know, going hard away games, and she's got the experience.
That's the other point of people saying, oh yeah, they'd be a great player or a great manager in the women's game. It's a completely different game. So if that just us going back to that point of being an ex-player in the male game doesn't make you a great pundit or a great player, coach, or manager. These women that you're sort of thinking aren't good enough are giving me more analysis and more input than your guys that you've got, you know, that are so-called, you know, ex-Premier League superstars of yesteryear, but can't analyse a game without sort of cliche, soundbite comments. Just lazy punditry. It's just people making an effort. It's just we can see through it.
Yeah, what makes her opinion less valuable than her male counterpart, especially when, you know, you've got Sunday League players who everybody thinks, you know, that they've done it. I think that, you know, I've done it. My opinion matters because I've played football, and that's what like a lot of the males will say, and they will just jump on the likes of Alex Scott just because she is female, but she does provide quality opinions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, with all that being said, that's just our opinion on how we see the pundits. There's obviously the match of the day two lot who I think will get given the graveyard shift, but I think there's some really top pundits underneath it all. I think Leon Osmond's really good. I think Murphy's good. But again, their name's not as sexy as, you know, Roy Keane, Savage, you know, and the rest of them we've sort of slated. But again, that's our opinions. As always, like, subscribe and comment, and please let us know who you think the worst pundits are and who the best pundits are. Just have a little comment underneath, and we'll look to reply to them across all our social media channels. And that wraps up another episode. So until next time, guys, it's a bye from me.
Bye from me.
See ya.